What's up? What's up? What's up?
Who's poppin'?
Nice.
Met
Whoa.
Connect.
Met Connect.
Awesome. Meta Connect. We were talking about Amsterdam and Dev Connect earlier. How awesome that was. How many of us there were. I think how many dudes were in the house?
Too many dudes in the house.
So there's a lot of people. We were just talking about kind of where metagame's been, where we're at now, and then we devolved into world politics and solar punk and some crazy stuff.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Sounds meta.
Very meta. I asked them what kind of meta they were playing this year, and where they see the play being for life this year.
It's a good question. What is the best answer that you received?
I think that's where we went into politics. Solar punk and being considerate of like philosophy and where we are in the world was a pretty good answer. I got another one that said that they had no idea what they were going to do this year, what their meta was. They weren't qualified to talk about their meta this year. My meta this year is going to be to keep pushing. I've got some projects coming out, but it's going to be to kind of finalize some of the stuff. Really get back and push on more of these projects. That's a pretty crazy 150.
Makes sense. I mean, what else is there to do?
Yeah, I'm here to build, so I'm gonna keep doing it no matter what the market does.
That's the right idea.
Exactly.
I think our discussion can lead, like, with ease into what you, Peth, were going to speak about where are we, why are we here, and where are we going? Because we do want to know. We do want to know. we do want to remind ourselves. Is the right way to put it?
We do, because it kind of goes back. Do you want to transition to that, or do we continue talking?
Yeah, let's transition. Unless.
All right. This is here. Mm-hmm. Let's have some inception in here. Oh, where is everybody gone? You left me here all alone.
I'm still here.
We're
If you
all
needed
here.
support, yeah, sorry.
There's more people than ever before.
Yeah, I know that's a little bit of a rough transition into the planning. Sorry, Pete.
Oh, no, I'm just joking. Let's get into this. So this presentation is kind of not directly about metagame, although it is. Like I wanted to make it a general Web3 presentation. Then as I was working on it, it was turning into a metagame presentation, and I tried to keep it not metagame presentation, but it still eventually became metagame presentation. Just go on. So starting with the very basics, I know that there probably isn't anybody here who isn't already familiar with these things. But yeah, the cool thing when it started with the Bitcoin, the cool thing about it is that it was the first decentralized currency. There was nobody to just create new coins. There was no like administrator, nobody to print new coins. It's just like the system that produces it based on what it's programmed to do. And then you had Ethereum, which is the same principle except programmable. So you can, instead of just moving numbers around, you can make it do anything. I'm hearing some bumps. Is that somebody DMing me that the presentation is not working or my sound is shit?
No, I believe that was just Xanth joining. Sorry.
All right, that's good. So previously we had the centralized servers that were easily exploitable both internally and externally, and had the centralized databases that aren't getting along, so you couldn't really make applications that are interoperable and generally make things the databases that were walled gardens, so you can just access data through different platforms and build cool things. Instead, people were just like these big centralized organizations just hoarding data. And now we have this globally accessible decentralized database that's allowing us the creation of decentralized application organizations. And so there are a lot of possibilities, starting from the most basic ones like the tokens, which can be anything from like decentralized currency to like a share of the company, of organization. It can be gold. It can really be whatever. Then you have DeFi, the like building of a new financial system. The current right now is not even just primitives, but yeah, it started with building the primitives, such as I don't know, we have the basics like the just lending and borrowing, and now there's a lot of things being built on top of that. So we have a lot of cool things in the DeFi space, and then the refi is kind of adding the regenerative component on top of it. So we have the not just a financial system, but financial system that's either sending some of the profit to something regenerative, or just a completely regenerative project that has like it has some financial shenanigans going on, but it's really about regenerating something. And you have the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, which people hear in NFTs, they think it's just art or like a profile picture piece, but there's so much more that they can be, like anything from access keys to like real world asset. They can be real estate, they can be really whatever, like a digital representation of a real world asset. So we're starting to see it now. Like up until just like a year ago, it wasn't possible, but now we have with projects like Ethereum, where you can directly tie the digital asset to the legal world, so it's enforceable in like actual courts. And to me, like the most exciting possibility are the DAOs, the decentralized organizations, which I will get into deeper a bit later. But there are also a lot of problems that we have. The technical problems, which are like the high fees, high energy consumption, which we're getting a lot of slack for, and challenging UX with the key management and stuff like that, which the technical problems actually worry me less. They're being solved, and like the high fees are being solved with layer 2s, transitioning to proof of stake. The high energy consumption will go away with that transition. Challenging UX, we'll see there's some innovation going on in like non-custodial wallets, like storing the key phrase and shit like that. But yeah, stuff is happening, problems getting solved. But then yeah, on the more social side, where you have the fork of a fork of a fork, where people just take code of another DeFi project or whatever other project and just slap on a new token and let people farm that new token without innovating in any way, just copying a project. And then you have the same shit going on in the NFT space, where people are just taking code, and like you have the Bored Ape Club, then you had like 100 different versions of that, from the most bored apes to the most boring apes. And yeah, other than that, just in general, scams and rug pulls. That's kind of become normal in the space, because yeah, it's it can be anonymous. There's a lot of money at stake, and just it's kind of easy to scam people, unfortunately. And like as a space, we've been building and building, but we rarely stop to ask ourselves, what is it really all for? So we have this general devolution to profit maximization being the main goal, and it's in general making it hard to make newcomers understand what the space is really about, like why we got here in the first place, what excites us about this space. And so the ways we've been trying to fight this in the space is with memes. So it started with, we had like the world computer, which was the first meme for what Ethereum is, which is kind of not really true, because if you tried using Ethereum to compute something, then you must be incredibly rich or have a lot of time on your hands. And then you have the ultrasound money, which is kind of the play on Bitcoin being the sound money, which is just like money that isn't inflationary. And here the play was, okay, this is ultrasound money, so it's money that is deflationary. And it's like, okay, cool, like deflationary money, number go up, everybody likes number going up, but it's not exactly inspiring and not what I'm personally here for. Then you have the starting of the transition from degen to regen. In the DeFi space, there's been a lot of degening. So for those who are new to the space and don't know what degen means, it's degen is a person who just jumps into any project that's promising the highest returns, and they take a lot of risk for that. They quote unquote ape in. And the regen meme is just trying to put a spin on it, which is just getting people to transition from being degenerate, from degenerating to becoming regenerative. And I think in the worst case, we can say they can be projects that are still attracting degens, but have a project that's like, it might still lose people money, like because it's a high risk project and people accept that it's a high risk project, but at least maybe a percentage of that money is getting siphoned to something regenerative. And just like my favorite meme, which is this Moloch, fighting Moloch. And people who haven't heard about Moloch or have heard about Moloch and just think it's a god of child sacrifice, you should go read about. You should go read the meditations on Moloch, or at least the summary article of the meditations of Moloch on Moloch. But really, who Moloch is in this story is a symbol of human, like he's the god of coordination failure, or yeah, it's just a symbol of how humans fail at coordinating and solving common problems. So it's about so coordination. So the meme that you are all familiar with, that I forked from Mr. Wacky. Why are we here? So why I got here in this first place is just thinking about the possibilities of these new decentralized systems and decentralized organizations, and thinking about like, what if every local business was a DAO, and these DAOs had different like boards of tasks that they need completed, the board with ideas for like adding new things to the business. Things like that, or like the governmental services were DAOs and they were actually managed transparently, or the city itself was a DAO and the citizens were voting on what's needed and allocating where the tax money should go. And what if the value itself in a society was programmed to flow towards projects that regenerate ecosystems and communities, and there were these sort of honeypots for people who can just go out, do good things. And what if flowers grew out of Moloch's ass? And it's kind of still wishful thinking, because yeah, all of these are possibilities of the future, but we're still in the present, where most of the things in the DAO space are still coming up, and we have like the basics, but yeah, we're still getting there. So we should first come up with better ways to self-organize and solve our own problems. We try to apply these solutions to the real world, and trying to get local governments to accept our solutions, which are kind of still inexistent, like not really applicable, because not great to use. So things actually working. We are getting there, but we are not quite there yet. And to recap, so first we had decentralized currencies, and then out of that we had decentralized finance and applications. Then we had decentralized organizations. So what's next? Kind of these decentralized societies or groups of decentralized organizations. But not to get too ahead of ourselves. And kind of seems obvious that the next step, these networks of DAOs, and a lot of people are building these different pieces to build these decentralized societies, different building blocks. And yeah, when first started metagame, we thought we would just put these pieces together. But then as we started building it, we realized that a lot of these pieces don't exist yet. So the first thing that we put together is a thing called Metasys, which we used for accounting for value for contributions to the project and rewarding people. So it's sort of like a minimum viable economic system. It's tracking contributions, rewarding contributions by minting tokens on Ethereum, and then adding liquidity for those tokens through an automated market maker. We are using a balancer for, so using SourceCred, minting tokens through whatever you want to mint tokens, and we're using a balancer, which then we used to start building the rest of metagame with this basic system. And then the first building block, or you could say Metasys was the first building block that we put together, but we did more work on MyMeta, which are decentralized profiles. So like if we are building this decentralized world, like we need decentralized profiles that aren't owned by Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, profiles that are actually owned by the people whose profiles they are. So these MyMeta profiles are profiles based on Ceramic that are sort of like LinkedIn pages for people who want to work in DAOs or people who are working in DAOs, and they display things like what skills you have, what DAOs you're a member of, what NFTs you have, also like what DAOs you, in terms of what DAOs you're a member of, but also what role you have in that DAO, or what's your status in that DAO, like how much XP you have, what's your share in the DAO, what's your time zone, what's your time availability, other things like that, and features that are coming up, like the Meta Collab, which you'll hear more about in one of the upcoming sessions, but it's about allowing people to set up contracts between each other that are disputable through a third party, and like they have escrow, which is optional, which will then allow people to basically do business or hire each other directly through their profiles without having to trust the person, because they have this contract between each other. Oh, not back. We need to go forward. So there are a lot of these building blocks. Like we are building MyMeta, and there are a lot of other people building a lot of other building blocks. And then you have these situations of a lot of building blocks that are in a lot of different places, a lot of different websites, and it's kind of all pinned messages in Discord channels with 20 links to these different pages. Not exactly intuitive to navigate. Like if you want to start a DAO, you first have to learn about this whole ecosystem and find all these different building blocks. Oh my God, dogs decided to fight right now. Big doggo. And then like once you find all of these building blocks and you start using them, it's still like all these blocks that are in different places, and it's hard to make use of them. And so we have this problem in metagame, which we started solving by building a thing called MetaOS, which is really about bringing all of these different pieces together through a mega menu and a modular dashboard. And then right now it's like start with just some like a lot of the tools that we are still using are Web 2 until Web 3 alternatives are built. So we're using integrations, which is not ideal, but really the long-term idea is to replace all these different pieces with Web 3 native integrations and allow people to build these different widgets for their profiles and the dashboard, and just have this interface that makes it easy for people to keep track of what's going on in different DAOs that they're a member of, to make it easier to navigate, to find tasks that are open or open roles, things like that. And that sort of transition to talking about metagame itself. So the way I explain MetaOS itself is just this open source framework for running composable communities, so that other communities will be forking MetaOS and like customizing it to their own needs. But the idea is that all of these Web3 building blocks are interoperable, and then with metagame is just building on top of MetaOS. So we're building running metagame on it, and metagame is about finding all these different resources for people who want to get involved in the DAO space, to make it easier for them to get onboarded, find different DAOs, find work, upskill, and just keep track of what's going on. And we're building this massive online coordination game that starts as this onboarding system and a decentralized factory where we are bringing together different DAOs that are either building something cool or offering services to people who are building something cool, and just trying to onboard people. But as you might have guessed from previous slides, the long-term idea is really to support and build this decentralized society. So having this metagame being as one of the interfaces for interacting with this decentralized society. There I go back again. So now what? So hopefully we'll be just one of many communities who are experimenting with assembling all these building blocks into platforms that make sense and into coherent visions of better futures. And what I think is just we need more people to come up with these visions and just start building things and make it easier to create these different building blocks and DAOs and start putting these things into platforms, because right now we are still we are using Twitter for like interacting outside of our communities, and we are using Discord for interacting within our communities, and it's both of those are shit for actually doing things. They're not just platforms that weren't made for what we are using them for. And I think overall what we need to do is just set great examples for what these society built on crypto would look like. And obviously with great power comes great responsibility. So there's a lot of money at stake, and people who come here that think they can make money, and they just get scammed out of their money, and people losing money. There's a shit ton of scams and just getting bad reputation for the ecosystem. And like in the non-scammy parts of the space, like you have like no metaverse game that has ever experimented with the Herberger stacks, you should go look up what that is. I'm not going to go through that because already talking too much. Wealth inequality, which is worse than in the real world. You have most DAOs that are turning out to be plutocracies. Crypto in general, it seems to be devolving into just ever more money games, and overall, like, who wants to invest in local communities and economies when the APY is barely 2 digits? And so then we ask ourselves, like, are we building new systems or are we just replicating the old? And so what is this place? And how I personally see it is just a place that started as full of idealism and smart and optimistic people. Then with every bull run, it got shittier and more dangerous with more treasure hunters and scammers. And I think we can get back there with DAOs and good memes and just turn this over time wild web into a web of opportunity. And so to me, Web3 is really about building new socioeconomic system. And then previously we had revolutionizing the world, which was happening through revolutions that were violent and bloody, that were creating power vacuums, or the people who would rise up would basically the situation would soon be either the same as it was, often it was even worse, and just not great overall. And currently you have just a lot of people who are revolutionizing the world by building these new systems peacefully, just creating an alternative to the current system. And yeah, when we are done, we can just slowly transition to this new system rather than having to overthrow. So we need to just overgrow the old system. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
All
Thanks,
right.
Pete.
Here.
I think that was a great review of everything that's happened so far, from blockchains to a lot of the problems that we're facing today. I think fighting Moloch is a really good meme. I think you touched on it pretty well too. Is that a lot of the concepts that we say, they're not like one-to-one mappings of things. They are memes. They're things that help people understand complicated concepts in a way that you can just say a couple words. And I think that goes back to like what I said earlier about using different terminology for things. And like as we describe new problems, we have to have new language to describe how to solve them. And coordination and DAOs and stuff, if they're just a buzzword to people, then they're not using them effectively.
The
You know?
soulbound tokens.
Yeah. Yeah, soulbound tokens, right? It's like there's been a big suggestion that DAO shares are things like soulbound tokens as well. You know, there's a whole bunch of definitions and like how people use tools rather than just what they say that matters. And so that's one of the things I love about metagame is like we actually dive into using these tools and kind of see how can we use them, what are the limitations, how are other people using them, and kind of build a platform that is exploratory and testing these out and making sure that we're understanding how to use these new tools.
Right. And helping newcomers understand all these buzzwords, crazy lingo that sometimes may even be unnecessary, but we still come up with these words because they're cool.
So I want to remind that anybody can pop their question in YouTube or in Discord.
So what do you
be-
think about all of the virtual worlds and stuff like that? Do you like them? I know one of the original visions for metagame was making like a meta village and having virtual worlds like that. Do you still feel that that's something that we should push towards? And do you like the virtual worlds and kind of? I think this year we're gonna have at least 3 new metaverses. Do you think any of them are going to kind of come close to what we need?
I think we do need some kind of a nice representation of what we're building rather than just a website. And that's part of why. And just like nicer places to hang out, like in the Atlantis world, where you can just walk up to people and talk, and then it sort of emulates a meetup or a conference rather than just 100 people being in a single channel, and you can't really walk around and hear other people. But I'm personally more interested in like building in the real world. Like every time that somebody comes in and is like, "Hey, so metagame is a metaverse game," then a little part of me dies. Because I'm personally really not about virtual worlds. I think they're cool and useful, and we should be building cool things inside that. But I'm personally really more about connecting things in the real world. So long term, I see metagame connecting. I mean, we already have a few in the network, these sort of eco villages and smart villages, whatever you want to call them. So really, I want us to build not just villages, but just hacker houses and small like ranches, places like that. That I think we should start onboarding soon and really long term have this whole network of physical locations that are sort of pockets of alternative economies where people can go between these places, live there, contribute there, and there's a system outside the system, basically. That's not just all virtual.
It's certainly like there's a although I like the innovation that's happening, the metaverse, there's a real danger there that we approach it as a substitute to embodied existence, in a sense, rather than a different way of interaction. So this is like a form of existential escapism right there. And like, I don't know if in the future it will be more mixed, because there's also this this possibility of mixing the interoperability that metaverse spaces afford with real life interaction. And maybe this is an avenue that's we could also explore in the future.
Yeah, we're gonna hear more about actually precisely that from future thinkers who are building a smart village, and so they are building an actual village, but they're also building like a 3D version of the village in one of the metaverse games, and then they're going to be mapping it with like obviously everything that's in the real world, but also like tasks that can be done in the digital world, but also tasks that people can do when they get to their actual village. And they're connecting with other villages, trying to get other villages to also like build their own 3D instances of what they're building and connecting to each other. But yeah, I think that's very cool. And yeah, on the other side, as you said, there's dangers of people using it to escape and just spending time in the virtual world. And the more immersive it becomes, the more the more dangerous it is that people would be spending more time there rather than regenerating the real world. And I've actually seen a great tweet yesterday, which was something like, the powers that be want you to buy the virtual world land and items while they buy the actual real world like land.
I know they already have bought it. That was there.
I think it brings back, like, it's all about what people do, right? And even these goals, like, people can talk all day, but in the end, it matters what people do. And if people say one thing and they don't deliver, then it doesn't matter. It's part of like Moloch, is like wasting time. So having the connection between getting something done in the virtual world and getting something done in the real world, like, they're both positive goals. You can take the same steps and you can have a virtual mapping of the stuff that you need to do, and like connecting the positive things that you need to do versus just wasting time and just talking is like the balance that people need to shift. You need to shift away from, like, you need to obviously understand, but if you've been talking for 2 years and not building, then you're probably still in the same place.
Right. Yeah, so one of the crazy ideas that I had for a metagame long term is having this like actual game that's sort of a mix between something like SimCity and Eco. I don't know if you've seen Eco, but it's like Minecraft except a lot more complicated. Like, you have actual ecosystems that you need to take care of. There's politics, there's like currencies, it's a crazy game. But the basic idea is that would combine with something like that, and then people will be as they work in metagame, which is like producing real world value, and then at the end of the day they get the amount of money that they earn in metagame, they get the same amount of money inside the virtual world that they can then spend on upgrading their house or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's important to have ways for people to express themselves too. And I think that's the part that it feels the most like impactful for the metaverse, is it'll be a ways for people to have a shop and sell and do the things that they wanted to do. Like, when I first saw voxels, like, that was the first thing that I thought of, is like, this is a 3D web page. I can drop my YouTube videos in here. I can drop links to anything from my store. It felt like real estate, but on a computer. And it brought me back to like the first time I was building something with HTML and just putting it up there and being like, oh, cool, I made a web page. It's like, oh, cool, I made a 3D gallery with all my wearables. It has the same feeling now that you can like own space like almost like Second Life, but now on chain. I don't know. It has the a different feel to it when every part of it is in the same sphere as my social context and my government and my banking. I can I'm unbanked, so crypto is pretty much my bank as well. So to have it all in the same system, it feels like full circle. Like we can do a lot more now than we could before. So even expressing ourselves and building out spaces. But yeah. So do you have a specific talk that you're most interested in, Peth?
There's so much cool going to happen, and to actually even look, I'm obviously like most looking forward to the meta day, like zooming out. Although this year we also have the refi days, which is pretty similar to that. There's a lot of cool things going on there. I'm really looking forward to hear more about from the liminal village and the regenerativa. So they're the liminal village people. They joined up with some other projects, also like building an actual village, and they're building a network of villages now. So that's cool. That's going to be cool for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the refi days are super cool, and then the meta days are for people to kind of connect with the DAOs, and they're like a deep dive into the ecosystem of Meta Cartel and just kind of the alignment people. So yeah, the meta days are going to be exciting too. So we originally were going to have an intro to the treasure hunt. I think we're going to have a 30-minute break before that. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, Penguin, hold up, Penguin. I made a mistake reading the schedule earlier. That's not till the I think that's tomorrow, the treasure hunt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I think Tempany's gonna give it an intro to it and 30 minutes.
Oh, sweet. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, I agreed to him that we would talk about something, give him a little bit of time. He's hard at work doing that, so
Awesome.
I want to make sure that he's got everything prepared.
Lovely.
But I figured that we would talk about something else if you're still available, Pete, for 30 minutes. Is that okay?
When? After
Right now.
Right now, yeah. I was gonna say, do you guys want to keep on talking shit and maybe even get more people on stage while we wait for Tenfini?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about kind of the season and what we're gonna do at the end of this manifest. I think it's probably a pretty good thing. Let's talk. Yeah. Manifest.
What I'm really looking forward to is the questing system finally being usable. So it's been very close to usable for a while, and PR is open, waiting for review. And then at the end of the MetaFest, we will have all the quests up there, and then we can tell people, hey, you have all of these projects that we talked about at the job fair, all these DAOs that gave presentations. You can start your own project. We have like hopefully plenty of inspiration, but also you can continue by joining metagame, and you can just proceed here. And yeah, right now people just go to the landing page and it tells them about metagame, and then they go through the profile creation flow, and then they're basically redirected to Discord and the dashboard, which gives the overview of like what's going on inside the community. Tell them like how much XP they have, the price of seeds, but also the news, or like the latest podcast episodes or the newsletters or the videos that we have. They're also like all in a feed on the dashboard. and the leaderboard, and there's a calendar. But still, like, people are lost on that step because you have the dashboard, which kind of you can look around, and then you have to go to Discord, and then Discord sends you to Notion, and so there's these different pieces that are still disjointed. And then once we have the questing system in place, it will be a bit of a clearer flow about how to progress through metagame. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check out the quest system later. I'm looking forward to it too. I've seen the progress coming along, and yeah, I'm excited to see it used towards the end of MetaFest.
Oh yeah. And the quest chains, which is the other side of the questing system, I guess, which is also a product for other DAOs who want to have their own like onboarding paths. So the quest chains was made for quests that follow each other. So it started from the basic quest that we have in metagame, which is like when you're first trying to join, you have join Discord, subscribe to the newsletter, and things like that. Introduce yourself, and then after you complete the basic quests, you choose your role, and then you have like the builder's path, the designer's path, and then you have these basically quest lines that are dependent on the role you chose. And then that should also be useful for other DAOs who want to have their own onboarding journeys mapped for newcomers to make it like more streamlined to onboard into their DAO.
Yeah, I think that kind of warrants a little bit of discussion as well, because we've really played with the notion of guilds and onboarding people and having these quests that the guild leaders can kind of assign that helps onboard people into their respective sub DAOs or just respective groups, raid parties that they're entering. Can you talk a little bit about the process that went into us forming those quests and the finding the champions for these different projects?
Well, those onboarding quests were really like slowly coming up. First we had no, and then we had the basic quest like subscribe, introduce yourself, things like that. And then then the builders were asking how can they start contributing, and then we obviously need some kind of a builder's path that sends them go here to check out the repo. There are these code base walkthrough and things like that. But yeah, as the needs were coming up, these quests were made. There wasn't like pre-planning. Starting metagame, let's make these onboarding quests. They're coming up organically, and it's the same with the champions of these different initiatives. Like from the beginning of metagame, we had a few different initiatives. So we had from the beginning like the podcast, the profiles, and I don't know, we did the conference. There were a few things, and that's actually the most common criticism that I got was, hey, like, why are you trying to do so many different things instead of just focusing on one and doing it well? And then I sort of rationalize it to myself in two different ways. So one is like, if you're building a decentralized society, obviously you do need these different tentacles. Like you're building a technology, but you also need some kind of media outlet like the podcast and the newsletter, or for the communications, for keeping the community up to date, things like that. And the other side is just when studying metagame, I was always thinking how people joining the space are always like, hey, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer, so there's nothing for me to do. And I wanted to dispel that and make it so that, hey, like there's really tons to do, like regardless of what your background or skill set, or maybe if you don't even have a skill set, there's at least a few little things that anybody can do without any skills. And then I seen this as I was sort of starting these raids that like I knew that there's no way that I can keep on going myself, but the idea was that there will be these different venues for people to explore. So when they are onboarding and then they find, there are these different projects. This project is lacking a leader, and I really like this project. And then with time, these different people started coming up and taking these leadership roles.
I think that's one of my favorite parts about metagame too, is that it is very organic. I know it's kind of chaotic, and as you said, it's like if you're trying to do everything at once, are you making progress? And I think there has been significant progress on a lot of different fronts, especially like personal growth for a lot of people, and that's one of the big parts that is it's like hard to quantize, right? It doesn't result in any more sales for someone, but opening someone's mind and helping people into our space and helping grow the things that we need to do and want to do is always kind of like a balance. So like the guilds has been, it's been forming people that want to be friends together for common goals and things that are of value. And sometimes it's like hard to get all the cats in a room. And so I think having the quests and having these people that obviously they're not your boss, but they're people that have the candle and they're like walking north and they say like this is where we're going, this is the kind of like where we need to go. And so those guild leaders are, they're people's friends, but they're also making sure that the organization is functioning. So these quests and those lines really kind of help define the path that people can follow, because it's a decolonization is the best way to describe it. Is that people have been told to sit in a box for their entire life and listen to what someone tells you, and then when you get into the real world, you've got to figure it all out yourself. And Web 2 world is all about not telling people things and having proprietary information. So when people tell you go do something or you don't have a boss, people are kind of lost. So I think it just kind of comes with being kind of ambiguous and vague and being a religion, right? No one knows everything about Christianity. You've got to study and have the ethos of like, I want to be a better person, if that's your vision of a better person, And I think that's why I always describe metagame as a religion more than a straight service DAO.
Right. Yeah, it really comes with a set of beliefs, both about about what these technologies do to like what should be done in general, or like how one should act, because a lot of people come in here and then they're like, hey, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And okay, I want to do this. Can I start? Can I blah blah blah? And I'm trying to explain that you should really just start doing things. And that was kind of a surprise to me. Like when I started, I thought I expected a lot more people to really be more autonomous, but people coming from the Web 2 world are kind of and normal jobs, and they come here expecting to be told what to do and have their hand held through the onboarding, and then being told precisely what to do and things like that. And it's really not how it works in the DAO space. Like the space is so chaotic, and people are just being encouraged to take action. Like you see a problem, start solving it. Don't be like, hey, there is a problem, and then I'm not even gonna tell anybody.
Yeah, that's like the big problem about responsibility is like, if you have a duty to do something, people, are going to do it. If people don't think that it's their responsibility, they think, oh, someone else might do this. And in this space, that's not really how it works. You have to take it upon yourself to do what you see, or you need to at least share that with other people that have the energy or passion to fix it as well.
Right. Yeah, super important.
So I think one of the big things that we have about metagame is to make things fun as well. Are there some fun activities that you see coming up, and like how do you kind of measure the success of what we're doing?
I was just gonna say that there was something I wanted to say before that I lost my train on the train of thought, which was like it's sometimes it's hard to measure our progress and see what has been done and what not. But like I heard people when I meet them at a conference or something, and they tell me anything from like, "Hey, I got my first NFT in metagame," to like, "Hey, metagame changed my life," and like it didn't happen a ton of times, but it's like a few times is really enough to be like, like we are doing something right here. Something fun that's not really finalized, and I'm not sure I should even be talking about. MetaFest real life next year.
Oh, that's an alpha right there. I won't say anymore. I will say that metagame has changed my life 100%. And, I've made a lot of valuable connections and a lot of valuable insights from being a part of metagame. And a lot of it comes from opening my eyes, and connecting with the people in our space. So I personally have been touched by metagame. It's why I am here, and why I'm going to continue to be here too, pushing, is because I love what we stand for and what we do. And so it's been a lot of fun meeting great new friends around the world that are just as passionate about helping other people and doing the right things and asking hard questions. A lot of the times, some things that we do are not comfortable. Running a society and dealing with problems is stressful, but coming through with people that have good intentions means that people figure out solutions that in a normal group someone would just leave, and when you have people that are committed to figuring things out, they ask the harder questions and work through the problems and kind of make positive steps rather than falling into habits that are kind of destructive in the long run.
Right. Yeah, I think this is really what sets us apart from a lot of these different communities that are based just on token holding. Like, oh, we are a community because we have the same token. And it's the same like both in the normal tokens and in the NFT space, where you have a lot of hype around the project, and then as soon as something goes wrong or the price of token goes to shit, like there's no community. There's people just like, okay, just gonna jump onto the next shiny thing. Whereas here, like our token was never really performed well, and yet the community was always here. And sure, a lot of people changed and people left, new people came, but I feel like we retained a lot of the great people, and even though a lot of the people who are not even so really very active in metagame itself and they're working on their own project these days, still part of the community.
Yeah, I think that's the other part too, is that communities are gateways towards doing what you want to do, and connections too. So like there is always a flow. Don't think that you can't get into a group now, because every group, from a metagame to raid guild to meta cartel, they require new people to come in and new perspectives, and I think everyone sees the power of new energy too, right? So if people have been chugging on the same problem for even a couple months, someone could come in new and be like, "Oh, why aren't you guys doing this?" And that it's easier to see things from fresh eyes and to have other people's perspectives. So building that diversity and making sure that people come in and that we align them correctly means that when they do find what it is that they want to do, and they're still connected. They didn't break off. There's still people, like you'll see throughout all of MetaFest. These are all people that have either gone through metagame, have been on our community calls, or are people that we directly support through Gitcoin grants or through showing up to their talks and supporting them and encouraging other people to listen to them as well. So they're all the people that are doing things and having the connections from metagame and thinking and working through problems is what it's all about.
Right. Yeah, pretty much every person that's on the schedule was reached out to personally by one of us, and it's connection from somewhere. And yeah, what you were saying before, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Polymil, the most randomly useful person that we had up into. Like, I immediately came into my mind when we were saying somebody coming in and saying, "Hey, why are you guys doing this?" I think he's the person with like the most times that he came into the conversation, like, "Hey, there's this solution here." You just come out of nowhere and drop a solution. Like,
yeah, I mean that there's so many solutions that people have put out and good solutions that the hard part is sharing them and communicating everything that we're doing. And that's the hard part of any project is if you're a builder, it's harder to communicate. If you're a communicator, it's harder to build. Like we need to like start sharing and mixing these projects. And so like that's what I love about MetaFest is it gives a voice to all these projects that have been heads down building or don't necessarily have outlets that they get a chance to speak to a wide audience. So, these are recorded conferences that we all get to do in the comfort of our own home. So, as I said, there are like 3 other events going on right now, but, being able to share and even the audience here is a much higher level and more confident than I would say just kind of the general audience because we're sharing amongst our friends and I think they're all kind of DAO experts and builders rather than passive participants. So I think we'll see a lot higher kind of content and sharing here than we would if we just ran for-profit, anyone come and give us some money to speak kind of conference.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, obviously metagame is supported mostly through donations, right? We've got a Gitcoin grant donation up right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Metagame.
So yeah,
There's no easy place to drop the link.
those funds will be
Gitcoin.co/grants/213/metagame.
Sorry, can you say it one more time?
Gitcoin.co/grants/213/metagame.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's just like one of the many grants that Gitcoin has available for awesome organizations. So we heard about Lumina Village, obviously Metagame, and I think in giving back to the community there goes a tremendous way. So I always make sure to donate during the rounds because like $10 I think matches to about $150 or something that's given to places depending upon how many other people have donated. And so it's quadratic voting, meaning that if you donate $1, that the funds are matched and that it counts as another person donating. So there's significant matching if you increase your proof of personship and do things like your Bright ID and other tools to help prove who you are. So we'll have some Bright ID parties during MetaFest. And I definitely recommend that you support some of the wonderful organizations through Gitcoin during their matching funds. Metagame included.
A lot of cool projects out there that need funding. But I also wanted to touch on what you were previously mentioning, just these different building blocks and things that people don't know exist, and especially newcomers. And then I see it actually as a problem that people keep a lot of the times rebuilding the same things that have already been built by other people that can just be reused, like even in open source where it's like completely unnecessary. And I've been thinking about starting some kind of a building blocks page on the wiki or something. I think that could be
Yeah,
useful.
we had some playbooks that we were working on, right?
Yeah, we have the great houses. So this kind of the part where I'm not sure how it should work. Like for those who don't know, we have a project called the Great Houses. So we have like the House of DAOs, House of DeFi, House of NFTs, and basically what they do is just give you like a high level overview of what this field of interest means, like a few paragraphs intro, and then just links to all the tools and frameworks, all the like podcasts or articles for more in-depth understanding, and basically any useful link related to that field of interest. And so like all of these houses already have their own like tooling section or like framework section. And then if we start a new page that's just for tooling, it's kind of like these, there aren't too many places. I think we need a better infrastructure where these sections from like subsections from houses also get automatically merged into a single page where it's just a list of all the tools and frameworks. I think something like that could be useful, but not possible with our current wiki.
Yeah, I think the Great House is a very wonderful resource, probably underutilized, but as you say, it's a great way for us to communicate the tools and things that people should be using, and bring notice to a lot of the great work, so that people don't repeat a lot of the work that's been done, and know who to reach out to kind of support existing work. I think that's the other big thing about Web3 that I love is like how open it is. Like if you want to go work on a project, usually the barrier to hop on that team or participate is much lower because of the open source nature, and being able to directly contribute to repositories, and kind of like build by doing rather than uh, just talking. So I think that's a great idea, is like having the resources to go out and talk to these people. So yeah, the great houses is on the wiki. Is that right? It's on metagame.wtf.
Yeah, this is the mainland page, but you should be able to find the wiki through there. And if not, you can go to wiki.metagame.wtf.
Great. Tenpenny, are you here too? I see he's here. I think he's gonna intro a little bit about our virtual footprint.
I've never used this interface, so I got to figure out how to do the screen share of one of my two screens.
So it is by your panel, your video panel. Should be
I'm
the
going to
bottom.
maximize this panel right here.
Well, thank you so much, Pete, for telling us where we've been, hanging around, talking about the progress of metagame and the ethos. It's wonderful hanging out with you. I think you've been an amazing guiding star and like virtue for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words, and thank you everybody for hanging around.
I'm sure we will talk to you later in the event, and I look forward to more metagame panels and sessions throughout the Metafest too. So thank you.